Oh, yes, guys. Welcome to Cardiff City World. I'm Si. This is the Breakdown Podcast. It's Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to everybody. And as always, the Cardiff City is the gift that keeps giving. There is always something to talk about. It's never a dull moment. And today is no different. So the first half of the show, we're going to be talking, of course, Sheffield United game. We'll be talking Riza leaving. We'll be talking Aaron Ramsey taking over. And then the last part of the game, we'll do what would normally be a separate video, but we'll have a little bit of a preview of the Oxford game and all that. But I am, as always, delighted to be joined by all you guys. And look, there's a little bit of hope now, which wasn't there after the Sheffield United game. There's just a little bit of belief, a little bit of excitement. Do I think it's too late? It frustrates me that they've made the decision this late. Like, I just think, like, it's been very clear, probably since at the very, the Luton game, I think, was the breaking point for the majority. But there's a lot of people who felt that even before that, it was probably it didn't seem to be improving. My biggest issue was that the performances were just the same all the time. Like, when is the last time that we put in a good performance under Omar Riza? And I think what kind of showed is in his statement, where he obviously mentioned some of the high points of his time as the manager, it's only really the Watford game, the Plymouth game, the South Wales derby. There's 3 games in his whole tenure. So that's a problem, isn't it? QPR first half the other week, we were excellent, but we fell apart in the second half. And it was those second half performances which were really worrying and we did it again against Sheffield United. It just felt like throwing shit against the wall. And I think I'm gutted. I tell you, 2 players who I am really gutted for is Isaac Davis and Ruben Colwell, because I think the way that Aaron Ramsey will want to play and the way he'll set up would have really benefited those 2. But it's going to be fascinating to see how he lines up. It's going to be fascinating to see who he picks. Does he bring anyone in? Does he drop anyone? Does Dylan Lawler come in? Does Simic get a look in? It's going to be fascinating, real fascinating to see. I am I'm just like nervously excited by it. I just wish there was more than 3 games to go. I think the West Brom game will be a bit more of an indication on how he will want to set up and play and stuff like that, because he's only had today to work with the players. Now, will he have already had an idea? I would have thought so, because he's been with the group all season. So I'm sure he'll have had thoughts to himself of, I wouldn't do that. I would do this, or I would do this. That's natural for everyone does that. The one thing I think, or I would like to think that we'll see, is I would like to see us moving the ball quicker under Aaron Ramsey and much more movement off the ball. It'll be fascinating. What I really found interesting, and this is, I want to be very clear about this. This is pure speculation on my part. This is not based on anything I've been told by anyone. This is pure my speculation that I've kind of been thinking about today. I thought it was really interesting that they cleared out all the coaches and gave Aaron his own choice of coaches, because that to me feels like a clear out where they're looking to change the culture and the rest of it. So I feel like that might be a step towards a slight restructuring of things in the summer. And let me put you this, Tom Ramasalt's gone after surviving numerous managers. We're not quite sure what's going on with Darren Pearce at the moment. That'll obviously be revealed over the coming days. Gavin Ward is remaining at the moment as the goalkeeper coach. But let me put this to you, boys and girls. What would you feel like if in the summer, regardless of whether we stay up or go down, if Aaron Ramsey is given the job, we pay a little fee to get James Rhodri in as his assistant manager. He keeps the coaches that he's been appointed with now. And Gavin Chesterfield, who is the current head of academy, was appointed technical director. And Stephen McPhail, who's currently the director of football, I think at Shamrock over in Ireland, but building a stellar reputation for himself, was appointed director of football. Steve McPhail, very close to Aaron Ramsey and co. Knows Cardiff City, the football club, but he also has tremendous contacts around, particularly in the UK, in the Premier League and the rest of it. And look, I agree with what Jonathan has said there about, I think AD Viviash and Jody Morris would be absolute sensational additions to the club structure. I'm just speculating on maybe we haven't got a load of money to spend on these positions, but we want to restructure. So I haven't finished, by the way. So what would you think about Stephen McPhail, director of football, Gavin Chesterfield promoted to technical director, Darren Pearce takes over Gavin Chesterfield's current role, Kenneth Cho leaves the board and is replaced with a more football-orientated board member, which was the rumour, not that he was going to leave, but the rumour was they were going to add a football sort of minded board member. Would that give you a bit more hope in terms of the future going forward? Not saying we're going to get promoted next year or anything like that or whatever. I just mean in terms of a restructuring of the football club. Would that give you hope that they're starting to address the issues with regards to the structure and the things? Because ultimately, right, and this will take me nicely into Omar Risa's reign and the Sheffield United game, is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is literally the definition of insanity. And over the past several years, and we've flirted with relegation over and over and over again, we've never addressed the clear issues within the structure of the football club. Now, if you want more information and more things to talk about that, yeah, he's gone, mate. I did a video yesterday on the need for a structure. But my point being is that would that give you hope that they're addressing those issues? Because ultimately, we wouldn't have wasted as much money and we wouldn't have gone through so much managers because we'd have a clear plan and a clear strategy on things like culture and intelligence and football's like a plan of where we are going forward. And we'd be a bit more proactive. But anyway, let's go to the Sheffield United game. And it does take me to that. Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I feel like the last Lord knows how many games under Omar Risa, the personnel changed in terms of the starting 11, but the performances didn't. The performances have been very, very samey. And whereas at the start of the season, we were a little bit stronger in the second half of games, but the first half we struggled. I feel like more recently we've been all right in the first half, and then second half is kind of gone to pieces. We've lost all shape. We've lost all semblance of a plan. And like even against Sheffield United, so the thing with Sheffield United game, I thought the first 10 minutes, I thought we were pretty good. As predicted by me, and I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but as predicted by me, we went with Mate and Salic up front. And you could see the idea was to get the ball into them quickly, whether that was a crosses into the box or whether that was feeding it, looking for flick-ons and link-up play. But after the maybe 15 minutes, we never really did that again after that. And we sat off, invited pressure from Sheffield United. We gave the ball away in the middle of the pitch while the midfield was out of position. Defence gets exposed. They score a goal. Yes, they get a bit of a lucky deflection, but just same old mistakes, really, in terms of how the goal comes about. And then second half, we just kind of threw some subs on. Didn't really feel like there was much of a plan. There's a couple of things I really don't understand. And this is not a dig at Ollie Tanner, because I think Ollie Tanner is a really talented footballer. And when he's fit, he is someone who can be a very dangerous footballer for Cardiff, both as a starter or off the bench. He's very quick, he's versatile, he's skillful. He's the sort of player that defenders don't like to defend against. I'd much rather see him as a left-sided player, though, rather than a right, where he's cutting in. But anyway, but I don't understand why we're trying to force it and play him while he's clearly not fit, not up to match fitness. You know, you had Keane Ashford on the bench, Chris Willock on the bench, Ruben Caldwell on the bench, Rocco Simic on the bench, all of which could have been different options, or Simic could have played up top and Mate wide, whatever. And again, it's not a dig at Tanner. He's just not match fit. He's just not fit. And I think, yes, play him into fitness by giving him 15 minutes here and there. But we brought him on at half time the other week. And, you know, his couple of substitute appearances, he's looked way off the pace. And then we're starting him. And again, he looks a bit off the pace. And, you know, he does work hard in some ways, but he also can switch off defensively as well. And if you're going to try and be a bit more attacking, you need players to not switch off. The other thing, and so I didn't really get that. And then the other thing I didn't get in the second half is, you know, Yusuf Salic. I love him. He's fast become one of my favourite players at Cardiff since he's come. But Sheffield United just wasn't his game. He wanted too many touches. He was too slow moving the ball. It just, you know, it was one of them games. Just wasn't his game. They've got a couple of good physical centre backs. He wasn't getting any change. You've got Simic on the bench. Give him 20 minutes. Give him 25 minutes at the end. When you need to win football matches, give him 25 minutes when Salic is just having an off day. Or bring Ruben on and play him close to Mate. Like, do something different. But it just feels like we throwing stuff at the wall. Like, with the greatest of respect, you know, Chris Willock has been a bit disappointing in terms of since he came in. I was hopeful that he'd be a good signing on a free. Hasn't really found any level of consistency. Now, you could say because he didn't start much, but hasn't really shown what he can do. That was puzzling to bring him on at half time. Now, Will Alves struggled physically against Chowdhury. When he did get space and was able to face him up or get a bit of a run on him, he was all right. But when it was coming into his feet, he was physically being dominated. So instead of hooking him at half time, why not move Mate out to the left and put Alves in the hole behind and have him running off Salic and being close to Salic, utilize his pace in behind in the middle? Or why not switch Tanner and Alves? Try that. We're very rigid and we don't seem to really want to try anything different during games. You just hook him at half time. And, you know, Chris Willock was never going to be the answer. I think anyone could have told you that before the second half played out. I think they brought Willock on with the idea that he would cut inside and then O'Dowda would overlap. But when you've got Raksaki and Chowdhury as the right side of Sheffield United's side, O'Dowda couldn't pin them back maybe as much as he would have liked because we'd have got exposed. And it was just odd. And then even when Ruben come off injured at 89 minutes, then bring Simic on. Gamble. But no. So that was puzzling, frustrating. Overall, I thought first half was okay. Second half was poor. I'm not going to go through the whole squad, but I thought Manswerk was very good again. I thought Mate was okay. I thought Will Fish was very good. And I thought Chambers did a decent job back in centre-back. But he does panic me because I don't think he's got the pace. And it just seems like maybe centre-back's not his role anymore. And that happens as players get older. I thought Rinamoto was really, really good in the first half, particularly. Really good in the first half, but faded a little bit. Other than that, I thought everyone was pretty average, you know. Turnbull, I thought was good when he came on. And this is the problem, is these players are not in good form. And I think the most we can expect from Aaron Ramsey is a new manager bounce, maybe move the ball a bit quicker and have some more movement off the ball. I think they'll focus very much on 2 banks of 4 and, you know, pass and move. I think that'll be it. I don't think you can expect miracles tactically. But one thing I think he'll focus on is belief and confidence and motivation and working hard and giving everything. And I think if we do that and we're a bit blood and thunder in the way we go about our business, we do have players who can cause teams problems. They just need to have the intensity and the aggression and the belief that they can do it. Like, we've got talented footballers. We've seen that in little bits, like, you know. Yeah, and like I said, I think I said it in the preview, it wasn't my choice to play, you know, Mate and Salas. It's not what I would have done, but I could see it coming a mile off. And even then, we didn't play to their strengths. Like, Salic could have been the one running in behind, but they never did that. It was just Salic almost dropped in as like a 10, and Mate was like the target man, and messy, just messy. But, you know, Sheffield United, I thought they weren't great, were they? Like, let's be honest, they were there. And how many times have we said this year? They felt like they were kind of there for the taking, you know, which is, again, frustrating, because you felt like there was a point before they scored in the first half where their fans started to boo them and started to groan and moan. And you're like, God, get at them, like, increase the intensity, press high and get at them. Their crowd is on their back. So make the most of it. But as usual, we didn't. But I do think, look, I want to look at the positives. Omar Reset, like, thank you for his. I don't think it was a lack of effort. It wasn't a lack of care from him. I think it was a combination of, I think I said at the very early on in his reign, if not at the start, he was set up to fail and to be the scapegoat, which I think you can very much see that he has become, or certainly had before he was let go. I think now he's been let go, I see a bit more of appreciation or a bit more reasonable sort of comments towards him. I just think he was too inexperienced for the role, maybe the wrong man at the wrong time. You know, nice guy, but unfortunately, that's not what we needed. We needed a football manager who was going to come in and get these players playing. So, you know, Aaron Ramsey's got 3 games. There's no real pressure on him. Like, if we go down, it's not Aaron Ramsey's fault. If we stay up, it'll go down as a fairy tale and it'll go down in folklore. Aaron Ramsey came in and kept us up and saved the day. He'll be even more of a legend in Welsh football and Cardiff history as he is already. So it's a win-win for him, really. And as I just said on the Rhodri gig show, Aaron Ramsey is so highly rated in terms of his potential for being a manager within the Welsh setup and people within the Cardiff setup and around Welsh football generally. Like, there's a lot of people who see similar traits to him and Bellamy. And I don't mean he'll be as good as Bellamy as quick as he will. I mean, in terms of their football IQ and the way they see football and tactically and the way they want to play football. Aaron Ramsey is a very highly rated guy and someone who a lot of people think is going to make a good manager one day. And look, he may do well at Cardiff, he may not. That doesn't mean he won't go on and be a very successful manager. I just mean that if you go on people's view of him in terms of his potential, there's definitely something to be excited by. But he's very, very limited in what he can do between now and the end of the season. one thing you can say without any doubt is that he absolutely cares. He bleeds blue. He is a Cardiff City fan. He's a Cardiff boy. As is Joe Rawls. Well, Joe Rawls is not a Cardiff boy, but he absolutely is a Cardiff man. And the same with Chris Gunter. They understand what it means. They will do everything they can to keep Cardiff City up and beyond. And look at the job Chris Gunter has done with the Welsh under-18s. And Martin's in the chat. He'll tell you just how good it's been. Sensational. Interestingly, a lot of those under-18s are on Cardiff's books. So do we see any of those? Do they freshen it up with some youth and have a bit of a spine of experience and really go like with some exciting young players to spark the crowd, even if it's off the bench? There's I think it was Martin Ryan said in the chat on Saturday, he thinks that Mafiko will come in on the bench just because he's been so good for Chris Gunter. And look, Aaron, I know Aaron has spent a lot of time with the different age groups and academies, so it wouldn't shock me to see some of those players in there because he spent so much time with them. So he'll know exactly who's in form, who's got talent, who's ready, who's not. All the different aspects that you need to take into account. And look, it's unfair to expect any of those young players to keep us up, but one or two maybe to spark something, I think that's okay. I'm super excited to see what his 11 will be tomorrow. And you tell me, what do you think his 11 will be? What do you think his system will be? Will he go with the kind of Welsh system, like that 3-4-2-1, or will he go with the Welsh system that Bellamy uses with a single pivot, and he'll play like two really aggressive number 8s with one holding? Will he go with just a basic 4-2-4-4-2? Will he go with 4-2-3-1? And who do you think he will bring in? Will he slot Dylan Lawler in alongside Will Fish? That would be super exciting. I don't know how far K Pacquiao is off, but I mean, a Ronan K Pacquiao on the right, that pace. I don't know where he is with it. I know he's back in training, but I don't know where he is in terms of his, his recovery and stuff like that. Let's go to the comments a little bit, see what you guys are saying so far. But let me know what you think Aaron's first 11 will be tomorrow. Evan says, here we go. Size breaking down. Ramsey's Bluebirds thrash. How Ramsey's Bluebirds will thrash Oxford 4-0. Well. Graham, evening. Reese. Gavin says, excited for tomorrow for Cardiff fans. Yeah, it's very exciting. Curtis, evening. Evan says, tell you what I'm excited for tomorrow. Haven't been excited to watch Cardiff since we last played Oxford. Says a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, it's brutal, mate. Dan, evening, mate, says, I reckon he goes with a back 5 with the wing backs pushed really high up. Yeah, I like that. Renario says, I think it's Dalman who's behind this decision. Without Tan's authorization, I wouldn't be surprised if Dalman buys Tan out. It's an opinion, mate. John says, I agree, Evan. I had to force myself to watch Sheffield United. I'm now actually looking forward to tomorrow. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying that suddenly they've got like that excitement and that just looking forward to games. Evan says, sad to think that the only games we've turned up for was when we've had a loss in the family. Omar's dad and Reno's brother. Take those games away, and we've been Eric Dyer. Gavin says that Oxford won't have a clue of our team tomorrow, and it could work better for us. Yeah, it'd be very difficult for them to prepare. Evan says, guessing Ramsey will get a job come the end of the season. Evening, Reese. Graham says players need to respond, or it'll be even more deflating. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, mate, I said this on Saturday in the breaking news show. If you haven't watched that, please do check it out. Saturday afternoon show. Is on my day off as well. What are we? Is these players, right? They didn't. They wanted Bullet to go, so Bullet went. They wanted Riza to stay, so when there was other options, and he stayed. And now they wanted Riza gone, and he's gone. They got no more excuses. And I don't mean that as a, like, it's all down to them or they've been down in tools. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying it's on them now. They have to turn up and perform for the fans and for the club. Like, there's no excuses for them now. Okay, I know they've got a great deal of respect for Aaron Ramsey, so they will give him everything, and I think he'll be enjoyable to play for. And I think that's half the battle as well. Is yes, it's not about being friends with the players, but if you can get a group playing and wanting to they're behind the manager, then I think it's a big part of it. Jonathan says, if Ramsey gets the team looking good, it's likely he gets the job. Wouldn't be shocked, mate. I wouldn't be shocked. Evan says, Tom Ramsell's gone. And Jonathan says, I still feel AD Viviash and Jody Morris would be great additions to help Ramsey. I think both would be excellent, mate. You know my thoughts on it. Same with Brian Barry Murphy. Graham says, team need chance of support tomorrow, not a protest. That can come later if needed. Yeah, I think I'm not going to go massively into it. I do think there's a time to protest, and I do think at some point the fans and we as fans need to unite and tell the football club that we're just fed up of repeating the same mistakes and the same cycles, and the owners not and the board not being present at games, or actually never mind games, just the day-to-day running of the football club. It feels very neglectful. I'm just not 100% sure if now's the time. We got 3 cup finals, let's say that again, under a manager who's respected by all. So let's get behind him and get behind the team. Evan says, I'm happy for Ramsey to have it as long as he has an experienced man next to him. No exceptions. Yeah, 100%. I'd be all right if he had James Rhodri next to him, because I think James Rhodri is excellent. Andrew says there'll be a big clear out this summer, whatever the league, and it's needed, mate. The squad needs to evolve, but most of all, the structure of the football changes. Football club's got to change. We have to use this as a lesson and finally address the issues. Paul says, gotta thank Riza for what he did in the end. Something had to give. Now we look to what Ramsey has said: intensity, energy, something we've lacked over the season, big time. Reese says, let's be honest, if we did go down, it will be a season of stabilizing. Certain fans will be calling for Rambo's head by October, but not being top of the league. I think anyone who thinks League One will be just an easy ride is seriously kidding themselves, because we will not spend the amount of money that Birmingham City have spent. And I'm not convinced that we'll hold on to our better young players, which is most worrying. Gavin says we definitely need to protest to charge the fans up, and the players would know by the noise to turn up for 3 p.m. I know a lot of people have pointed towards the Swansea game and how good the atmosphere is, but how much of that would have been like that anyway? Because I think the players' performance came from the atmosphere, and I think also it came from the fact that Omar Reese's father had passed away the day or two before, and he had literally been in taking training when his father passed away. So they wanted to win for him. They wanted to put in a performance for him that day. And of course, I'm sure the protest had an element of it to the atmosphere, but ultimately it was a South Wales derby. They're always sold out, and it's always feisty atmosphere, or a better atmosphere than normal games. Jonathan says, I don't think Viviash and Morris would be too expensive options personally. That's why. Yeah, no, I agree, mate. I don't disagree with you. Jeff said, what do you make of this buyout rumor? Mate, with the greatest of respect, until I hear it from a reputable source, and I've sent out a few messages to some people I know who are very much finger on the pulse with that sort of thing, I won't believe it ultimately. and I won't give it too much time until it's from somewhere reputable. I'm not just going to talk rumors, but it's difficult to not see it. I will say on that, I think Tan has been looking for a way out for probably the last 18 months. But obviously the Salah case is the big holdup with that. And I don't think there's a massive queue of people queuing up to buy Cardiff City either. As much as I believe it to be a sleeping giant, and as much as I believe it to be the infrastructure and everything's in place to take this club on, if someone invested properly and put things in place properly to take us forward, I don't see a massive queue of people waiting to do that. Reese says, we've been fighting relegation for 4 out of 5 years. There's been no restructuring in that time. Why do we expect there to be any difference now? Because I think this is the closest we've ever come. And 2, in that 4 or 5 years, the board under Vincent Tan has never been as united as they have been probably since Christmas in terms of things have got to change. For instance, I know Mehmet Dalman has been very steadfast in his message to the owner that we need a football director of football or a football structure of some sort, but the owner makes the decisions. So yeah, very interesting. Morgan says we get a director of football, better decisions will be made. 100%, mate. And that's what it comes down to. Martin says, as Tom Ramsey definitely gone. Under 21s have got a game on Tuesday, so it'll be very interesting to see who's taking them. Everyone who I've spoken to today is very much under the impression that he's definitely gone. So that's all I could tell you, mate. But it will be fascinating to see who's in charge of the 21s. Reese Lasky says, I personally believe a protest will only bring extra pressure. I'd wait until we know our fate at the last home game after the whistle. If we're still in the relegation zone, then protest. I mean, if we go down on the last day of the season, the last days, isn't it away? Is it away to Norwich or home to Norwich? I get mixed up. No, we're away to West Brom, aren't we? And home to Norwich. Last home game of the season, if we are down, why not have a sit-in? I think that could be much more powerful to have 20,000 fans refuse to leave the stadium to protest the way the football clubs run than any other potential protest, as long as it's done in the right way. Paul says, only way a restructure will happen is if Ramsey can convince Tan everything needs to be done with a structure, or Tan sells and new owners do what right. Well, I can't tell you, Omar Risa. Vincent Tan thinks very highly of Aaron Ramsey. So maybe he is the one who can finally get through to him because he respects what he's done within football. John Watkins says, the restructure you outlined would be a good start. I wonder if an experienced ex-manager as director may help Ramsey, but it needs to be someone he can work with. It does. And I've seen a lot of people saying, like Dave Jones for director of football or assistant manager. My one sort of issue with that, I suppose, is Dave Jones has been out of football for a while. Football evolves at such a rate. I think that a director of football or the football man, I think they need to be people who are evolving with the game and have got their finger on the pulse in how things changing and how things are moving on, and also on players of different areas, different things, rather than relying on agencies and agents and these different things that the club relies on. Like, let's move with the times, like, you know. But I got a real. I tell you, one of the most interesting episodes. They're all quite interesting. One of the most interesting episodes in the rebuild series is there's one on analysis and like tech and some of the things that the club could be using to take that into the next level, think a bit outside the box, and certain tools that they can use, AI, things like that. Like, there's lots of really interesting things that I found that really fascinating to research, and looking forward to recording it in full. And also the injury one like how we go about recovery from injuries, physically and mentally, as well as why we keep picking up these injuries and stuff like that. So they're two separate episodes, but they're really interesting. It's all quite interesting. Obviously, yesterday's episode was the structure of the football club off the field. The next episode is the evolution of the squad, which is going to be a bit of a tricky one to record because I think it could all potentially be two separate. They might have to do like a League One bit and a Championship bit, but Jonathan says, unfortunately, I don't think the transfer committee have any thought process to structure and how people fit in their managers. They've no idea what's needed, leaving us extremely unbalanced. I 100% agree, mate. But ultimately, like, that transfer committee is in place because of Vincent Tan. And I think if you listen to Mark Bowen on Wednesday, when we were talking to him about such things, is a lot of clubs have a transfer committee, but it's who's on board, who's in that committee is what's important. I don't think it's unusual for like a chairman to have a say, a director of football, the manager, a chief exec, the scouting team, the head of recruitment, whoever it may be. Like this, it's not unusual to have a range of opinions. You need certain people will obviously have a veto, like higher up the club in terms of the voting process, but you need to have the right people on that transfer committee. And at the moment, it's the board and the manager effectively. And I just don't think that's good enough for a championship football club in any way, especially when you look at the people on our board. Now, if our board was full of football people, maybe I'd feel differently. Where was I? Suze agrees with Reese. Reese says it was very poor side, 2 target men, no poacher or number 9, so no runners for any flick-ons, won by the strikers. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. Martin says, regardless of relegation or not, what makes you think Tan will alter the structure? If we drop, we're more than likely to stay as we are, then recruit staff for a better infrastructure. Honestly, Matt, I cannot tell you like a definite reason why I feel like there might be a kind of restructure, and I it's just a feeling at the moment. Hopefully they're going to watch my my rebuild series and then they'll take note of that. I doubt it very much, by the way, but I know that people will watch it, but I don't know whether they'll take any notice. Jonathan says, I'm dreading that, looking at the lineup tomorrow and seeing El Ghazi start again. I'm not as sure as I was in January when I said Jamali Collins will never play for Cardiff City again, but I'm fairly certain that El Ghazi won't feature for Cardiff City again. Although you never know with a new manager, but I'm fairly certain. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Aaron Ramsey's going to bring everyone together like one big happy family. Paul says, Tan's too stubborn to change things. He's had ample time to do so. I have no faith with the change. I think he's had enough and maybe looking to get out because he could have changed the manager sooner. So what you'll find when football clubs are up for sale, whether it's publicly or privately or on the down low, is they will have restructuring to make themselves more attractive to potential buyers, because they can go, well, this is in place and this is in place, and we got the stadium and we got the academy and we've got a training ground coming and blah blah blah, and then alongside that they will asset strip and they'll sell some of the better players. And as I said, it's just a feeling. It's not based on any information. And also seeing the way they had a full clear out of the coaches yesterday, because the obvious thing or the easy thing to do was replace Riza, but keep, Pearce and Rawls. Obviously, Rawls come in, Ramsey, because they've been there and they know the football club. They know how everything works. They've worked with Ramsey. So Just, you know what I mean? Like, the easy thing was just to sort of do it that way. So to wipe everyone out, and obviously they'd have had to negotiate with the Welsh FA for at least one of it, well, at least Gunter, if not a couple of them. So yeah, it's interesting. Morgan says, without Tanner, Alves, or Ashford, we lack any pace on the wing. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. But I don't understand why we're trying to force Tanner when he's not fit. You got Alves, you got Ashford, and also you can't tell me there's no young wingers. Martin, give me some young wide options off the bench that we could have on the bench to change games. Isaac Davis is big blow having him out because I thought he was looking good. Reese says, surely Rambo will play the lads who actually care, e.g. long-serving seniors, local younger lads. Be mad to turn to Al Ghazi, John. Pray he doesn't. Yeah, I'd be shocked if Al Ghazi's there. John says, the other John says, Ramsey will know who his fighters are. Cannot see Al Ghazi in there. Who knows? Bagan on for Robertson when we're looking for a goal. Yeah, that was comical, mate. Yeah, Ruin got injured, but it just made no, like, you may as well have chucked Simic on up front. Like, you may as well. Like, it was just so weird. Paul makes a good point there. He says, let's be honest, Risa didn't play to the team's strengths. He got the team to play his way, which was the same as Bullets in a way. There was a massive disconnect with the words that Omar Risa would say. And actually, if you go back to Errol Bullet, there was a big disconnect to what he would say and then what he would do. You know, we had all these promises of Errol Bullet was going to play expansive football this year once he got the players he wanted in. Well, he got a lot of the players he wanted, and yeah, we saw what happened. He abandoned that attacking style that we'd seen in the preseason by half-time in the Preston game. And we did, yeah, you're right there. Like Reece says, what's mad? The first few games, we moved the ball with purpose and pace, and it was working. Yeah, we haven't played that way since. There's whenever we've moved the ball with a bit of purpose and a bit of more pace, and we've had a bit of movement off the ball, we look a different team and a team capable of creating chances and scoring goals. But it's just so few and far between that we just see a lot of slow passing, players wanting 3, 4, 5 touches instead of just 1, 2 touch pass and move, which is clearly what suits the majority of this squad, by the way. You know, Alex Robertson, David Turnbull, Joe Bagan, Rena Mota, Callum O'Dowd, Alves, like they all, maybe Alves wants to carry it a bit more, but like they're all technical players who want to move the ball, pass and move. Paul says players were clueless playing those tactics, 3 shots and goal, very tame efforts at that. Matthew, yes, mate, right. He says Callum O'Dowd needs to be further up the pitch. Just don't disagree, mate. Matthew also says we're interested to see who he goes with tomorrow. Yeah, I'd be fascinated with it. Reece says the crowd needs to stay behind the team. If we're drawing 0-0 coming into the final minutes, Oxford only conceded 1 against Leeds on Friday. They're structured well. Yeah, they're a well-coached team, mate. And that goes back to Des Buckingham before them, current manager. Like, they are a good coach team. It won't be... I'd be surprised if we walk through them, like, you know, no matter how good Aaron Ramsey turns out to be. Martin says 100% Reece Chambers, lack of pace as a centre-back. Feel Rambo will know this teams needs a leader as a DM, and Chambers is the nearest we've got. Yeah, my only worry with Chambers in midfield is I don't really want to see Chambers and Manswerk as a 2 if he plays a 2 in midfield. But I think we miss Manswerk when he's not in the side because he has the ability to win 50-50s and carry the ball, but he's also got the ability to pass. John says, basic question now is, will the players give their all for their new team head by 2 teammates? I hope so. Yeah, I mean, be interesting when Reece says be interesting what the lineup is. Holton says Vincent's hands taking us down. Yeah. Reece says I thought the midfield looked like it had legs with Robertson and Manswerk together. Mind Chambers better in CDM than centre back, but it still hasn't been like. Yeah, I think Chambers has been consistent. I thought Robertson and Manswerk made a nice little combination. Just didn't have any movement in front of him. Sue says Simic scored in the Champions League, a pen and an assist against Benfica in the Champions League, and he got man of the match in that game. That's what I mean. Like he's played in the Champions League, scored, played well, but somehow isn't good enough for us. Bizarre. Sheffield United were nervous, says Paul. They look like a team on a poor run. We look far worse, but we've been against teams on bad runs. We couldn't upset them. We upset ourselves by being even more poor than them, and lack of intensity. Holton said he would take going down if it means Vincent Tan going. Manny Barton to make his debut, says Jonathan Davis. Yatesy says our Aaron will get him up for it. I think he will get 3 wins. Rose and Gunter know what the real CCFC was about. Yeah, mate, I couldn't agree with you more in terms of they know what it means. They know what it's about. Yes, it would be very interesting to know that. Jonathan says, do you think we see a change of keeper? The only option is Turner, mate, and I cannot believe that they would chuck a youngster in at this important time. Be brutal. Then I know he's fairly rated, like, decently, so. Alex says, win tomorrow and it goes down to the final game. Anything other than 3 points, and I think we're done. But do you know what's mad, right? Is even as bad as we've been, right? If we win tomorrow, we can be out of the bottom 3 if results go our way. But as Jonathan pointed out yesterday, we could also win our last 3 games 5-0 and still go down. But like, we're only 1 point adrift, which is so mad to me, like, because it feels like we should be bottom. Sue says, I think we get a 3-1 win. Gav says, I definitely think Bellamy and Ramsey will be talking this through, and I honestly think Ramsey is a secret agent in the dugout. Reese says, hasn't Gunter just come back from the under-18s with Wales too? Yeah, he's the manager, isn't he? So they've only just played not long ago. Morgan says 4-4-2. He reckons hasn't had much time, so keep it simple. Evans predicted 11. Here we go. Now we're talking. Howworth, Callum O'Dowda, Lawler, Fish, Rinamoto, Manswerk, Turnbull, Ashford, Simic, Nikiawa, and Mate. That is an interesting lineup, mate. I got to say, wouldn't have picked that out. Not that I disagree, just I'm not sure about the Mate one, mate. I'd still go with Salic, I would. I think Salic with movement around him would be such a quality footballer. Just think he struggled the other day. Reese says, if Rambo stays on as manager, I wonder whether he'll be player manager and still feature on the field or just a coach. It is my understanding that, and this is not new, this is old, but I was under the impression that he wants to play in the next into qualifying campaign. Like, he wants to play, so he's got to play to do that. Reese likes the inclusion of Lola and Nayakuha. Martin says Tom Hutton also works alongside Gunter for the Wales under-19, so no coincidence Rambo got Gunter and Hutton in together whilst the other staff have departed. Huge potential and really hope it works. Yeah, mate, it's very good, isn't it? Jonathan says, here we go. Turner in goal. Rinamoto right back. Fish, Darland, Bagan. CDM, Manswerk. 8, Ruben Corwell. 8, Alex Robertson. 10, Corwell. Right wing, Ashford. Left wing, Alves. Striker, Salic. I don't think Ruben will be fit, but you never know. Dan, another one saying to play. No, I can't pronounce his name. Nayakahawa has been electric. He's been very, very good, mate. That is a good lineup, says Matthew from Jonathan. Yeah, Brian Barry Murphy's gone to Leicester and he's with Mark. I know. Yeah. So frustrating. Well, she says, don't think Ramsey will change too much. Warnock or someone direct would have worked. we'll lose the ball constantly 40 yards out. Better off lumping it and playing off the second balls for these 3 games. So it's tricky in it, right? Because I think these players, I think a lot of them are set up to, like, I think they'd be strongest in like a 4-4-2 with like old school wingers. Just get around the sides and put crosses in the box and put it back to the edge of the box and stuff like that. But lumping it forward didn't work against Sheffield United. Now, that's not to say that it wouldn't work against a lesser team, but Oxford are what's the word? Oxford are well drilled and well organised. Clue says, how is Tan not invested properly? Mate, that's a discussion for another day with only like a few minutes left. But I've never said that he hasn't invested money in the football club. Like, he's keeping us afloat. You can't deny that. But if you think he spent the money and invested the money well, then I don't know what to tell you, mate. Like, he just hasn't. And is that his fault? Well, it kind of is, because he's refused to install a day-to-day football structure so that the people making the decisions on how we spend money on staff, managers, players, etc., they're not football people. They're not you haven't got football people making football decisions. Like, the example I always use is if he's in his casinos and his gaming businesses, he hasn't got like a racing driver doing it, has he? He's got like people who are specialists in those fields. But I think if you, like, anyone who says that he hasn't invested or isn't putting his money where his mouth is I think that's when you've got an agenda. Because, like, even as last January he bought David Turnbull for 2 million. This January he's bought Salic for a few million or whatever it is. Like, he always does find the money for a signing, even in recent years when we need it. But my point is always that you look how unbalanced the squad is. We haven't even got a right back when G's out. Like, the squad is so unbalanced because we haven't got any type of structure and cohesiveness within the squad and within the club. And I think that's the biggest issue, long term and short term. Like, long term, having the right people spending the money means that, he might have spent the same amount, but maybe he wouldn't have wasted as much. And maybe the football team would be in a better position. No. Either way, sorry, West Brom's home, and I think I said Norwich is away. Yeah, I thought so. Knew I'd got it wrong. Do you know, I said that to someone this morning. Get Bale on the phone. Get it. He's a free agent. Just get him in. You imagine the lift it gives the players, if nothing else. Like, I get he's not going to be fit, is he? But, like, might be able to do 15 minutes and just bring him on to take some free kicks. There's one guy, mate, and I think it's a fair question to question his performance. But is that because he's doing it alone? Is that because he's not given the tools to do the job? I think there's definitely a discussion to have on it. Looking forward to Oxford, because we've just spent the whole hour talking about Ramsey and all the rest of it. What I will say is I think I'll do one of those. I did a couple of weeks ago. I did a preview in under 3 minutes for like a short. I'll do that for Oxford tomorrow, because Clue says you can critique him for the way he spent it. I agree, but he does invest money. That's a fact. I have never said he doesn't invest. I've just said he invests it badly, and I would like to see a change in the structure of how the club is set up, and that's whether Tan is in charge or not. Am I a fan of Tan? Absolutely not. And my personal opinion is simply because He tore the heart out of the club, divided the club with a stupid rebrand, which was needless and disgraceful. That's my opinion. However, I also accept that he's keeping us afloat. I just wish that he would listen to the advice that he's given by his own board members in terms of putting something in place for the day-to-day running and a football structure so that that money is being spent more intelligently. And that can go for short-term planning, long-term planning, mid-term planning. Like that's having so we're not changing manager every 6 months, 18 months, whatever. Like it's a big thing. And yeah. Matthew says, isn't that what an owner of a championship team is meant to do in terms of investment? Right. Guys. No. I'm not implying that Tan makes the signings. I don't know if that's directed at me or someone in the chat. I'm not saying that he doesn't make the signings. Of course he doesn't. But he's put the system in place where there's a transfer committee, which is the board, the head of recruitment, and the manager. I don't think that's fit for purpose. And I think that the evidence for that is the squad now, and how unbalanced it is, the sign-ins, etc., over the recent years. I just think that it can be better. And I think ultimately, if we don't want to constantly be flirting with relegation, then we need to make the club better. That doesn't necessarily mean going to sign millions of pounds on players. That means doing things and putting things in place to make us better over the long term, which will have a trickle-down effect into the long term of the team. Martin says, Manny Barton, under 18s, flying winger, scored about 20 goals this season. Get him on the bench. Get him on the bench. Get him and Naikawa on the bench is what I say. Come on now, guys. No arguing. Just have a conversation, innit? Rocco Simic is not in the squad tomorrow. Cheers for that. CC FC Insider just saying to John, I think it was Evan who said about Simic being in there. That's interesting. But there we go. Etienne Velionka. Yeah. He's a player, isn't he? Get Gareth Bale just to come in and take some set pieces. That's what I say. Right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Tomorrow night after the game, 7 p.m, Cardiff City phone in, 9 p.m, the 1927 Club. How about that? Double header. I'll put out the shorts preview in the morning. It's been a pleasure, as always. Really appreciate all your support. Really appreciate all the conversation and comments. It's always a good time. We've said it before and I'll say it again. Keep the faith. There is still hope. We are still only 1 point adrift. So keep the faith, my friends. And we'll see you at the Cardiff City Stadium tomorrow. And if you haven't got your tickets for Glenn Loovens on Friday, get them. There's 1 or 2 left, I believe. I think. So get them and I'll see you Friday. And if you do see me Friday or you see me tomorrow, just remember that I might not know you by sight. So just tell me your name so I know who I'm speaking to. I appreciate you all. Take care. In a bit.